But we also have something very exciting happening right now in the studio, Aaron. Yes, and there she is, Andrea.
That was my very exciting.
She
is.
Yes,
Hi,
we are
everybody.
so thrilled to have you here. And you all recognize Andrea. She's been with us for years. She co-hosts during our Share-a-thon, and so welcome.
I was looking through over Christmas at pictures, and I think for today, obviously, and I think it was like 2016. I would have put it at 18. It's been a lot longer than I thought.
That's a really
so
look at that.
This is how you usually see Andrea when we talk about exciting. This is Jamie. Obviously, has said something to make me very, very happy on air.
Yes.
So it's been
or
a lot
vice
of fun.
versa. You say lots of fun, exciting things too.
Yes.
It's always a hoot when you're around.
Pleasure.
But you're here today to share a little bit more about what's going on in your life. What has God laid on your heart to share today?
Well, with it being the new year, I think a lot of people see Andrea as that, right? I'm always here. I'm always pretty joyful. I always have something funny, some maybe snarky, sorry to say, but it's something that I wanted to really kick the year off with you guys today too, because it's not because there is not a lack of trial and tribulations, right? It's a mindset that you have. Sometimes I can lose my mindset, but I don't lose who I am and who has me, and that's Jesus Christ. And that would be why I, even after I wasn't a full-time employee here, that I went ahead and continued on, volunteering to do the share-a-thons, because I know this station is needed in this area.
Definitely.
Well, so you have a story to share. Maybe introduce your family first.
So we have Josh is my husband. We've been married for 21 years, which I'll tell you that 20 hits differently. We love Disney. This is our now 11-year-old, probably celebrating, I think, his 9th birthday there at Disney World.
You have your arms wrapped around.
Yes. And my nieces and nephew. This year, Aunt Andrea went and got each one of her nieces and nephews, not their kids' things, not the great aunt stuff, little gifts. And then the guy in the middle there is Jet. He is our miracle. And really talking about the joy of the Lord is our strength. Jet was never given anything but a sentence of death when he was in my womb. We did end up losing his brother Seth at 6 days old. It was actually January 14th, 2005 that I went into bed rest, and our twin boys were going to come early, and they came so early. Showing you pictures here. This is his twin brother Seth that we lost at 6 days old. That's the first time my husband held him. But when I talk about, I want to continue to bring it back to the joy of the Lord. I look at that picture and I see 2 young kids, right? We're 21 years into our marriage. Right. They had everything in the world going for them. These babies were coming. But even in that obituary, even in that death, I look at Seth and I think, wow, he got to go right from his daddy's arms to his heavenly Father's arms, right? Like, I can't wait for that moment. There's always a moment when we lose someone that I get really jealous. That it's like, they're there. And that's what we have the hope of, right? It's why he came for Christmas. It's why Easter ends up then being my favorite holiday, right? And then even in that obituary, the grandparents that were listed, the life that I was raised in, my parents were not married, and the actual the miracles that God has made, not only through Jet, which I talk about a lot, and his physical healing, but through our family and what God has done, that we are healed, and it is a miracle that we are all together and enjoying each other's company. So when I say God had a plan and he's sovereign over all, that's really where my joy comes from. I know I've lived through it. I've lived through the death of my child, and he's still so, so good. And I know his ways are better than ours, and sometimes our prayers aren't answered the way that we want them to be. Yeah. But I can definitely tell you that little baby's life in 6 days at 1 pound, 6 ounces. If you have a water bottle right now, that's how big he was.
Wow.
Made a huge difference and changed the world. God had a plan for him from the moment he was created in my womb.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so tell us a little bit now too, with Jet and Liam, and what's a little bit of their story now.
So, and what's wonderful about Jet, he is a bearded man at this point. He is taller than me.
Is he really?
How old is he?
19 on the 30th.
Wow.
So it was 19 years ago that we were, and it feels like yesterday. I know you guys feel that way with your kids
Right.
too.
Yes.
I see your son, in college and things. I'm like, no, they were babies when I started here. But he's doing very, very well. We talked about that Michigan win. There are a few of us
Yes,
out there.
I know.
Very excited for this.
For Jet's sake, I could become a Michigan
There
fan.
you go. That's what I said. If somebody's been in your brain, he's had 17 brain surgeries, and many of them at University of Michigan, you should probably stay their
Yep.
fan. But 8 years after we had lost Seth, and Jet did end up surviving, going through many, many, many surgeries and many things. We were blessed with that little guy in the Michigan shirt in bed with him right there at the hospital. And I really wanted to bring that one out because of the poignant smile that he has. We're headed into what would be another one of Jet's 17 emergency brain surgeries. But 8 years after those boys were born, we never planned on having any more children. We had a very big surprise, and his name is Liam Danger, and his middle name is Danger.
I love that middle name, Danger.
We picked that middle name.
Has he lived up to it?
Unfortunately, my husband was worried about it, and yes, but I love it because no one will ever mess with him. He is not fearful of going after his goals and his dreams. I mean, at 11 years old, I'm really excited to see what God has prepared for him. But what I joke with is, he could make the new shunt one day that God, someone created 59 years ago that they're still using today. Everything else gets upgraded, but the mechanism in Jet's brain that's keeping him alive has not been. And I don't know what God has in store for that little boy, but for our family, that joy and that smile for Jet, his whole life was lived as the little boy who was sick, and he's been through a lot, and he's still so happy. But he's got a little brother who just thinks he's a big brother. So, and everything that comes with it, the joy, the you're my hero and you are the biggest Achilles heel that I have, So, but just even in the hospital, finding joy with all those Michigan hats, all those Michigan players came and visited Jet. And even when we're going through our hardest times, we were very close in 2010 to losing Jet. It's when he was granted his Make-A-Wish, through Make-A-Wish, which is why we now go to Disney. We didn't even go to Disney on good terms, right? Like, we went to Disney because our son qualified for a Make-A-Wish. It's just something that we can always look for the good, even when there's something bad going on.
Yeah.
That is just that's so powerful and so encouraging to our viewers. And is there, an encouraging word that if somebody's going through a hard time right now, what would you want to say to them during this new year?
I have a couple little girl Andrea pictures on here. I don't know if they were able to get them, but I want you to know how important you are as a parent. Telling your children that the Lord loves them, teaching them that He is real. There's a little girl, and I love that I am always who I was with my little tongue sticking out here. Here's my family, even volunteering as a Paraforce volunteer here. But that day that those doctors sat and told us, number one, 4 separate times that we should choose to abort those babies, 17 days before they were born.
Wow.
But also, as our parents walked out, I'm sure the bellowing cries that they heard coming from Josh in that room were horrible to walk away from, right? Like, now I'm a parent of a 19-year-old. We were 24 and 25. They're still our babies.
Yeah.
Right.
And they left us to be together as we, knew our children were going to be born and not survive. We had no idea we were going to get 17 days and another 19 years out of it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we just cried, "Oh God." And He hears your mumblings. He knows when you don't know what to say. But that little girl was raised in a church, and even if you were not, what I'm going to say now is what is the joy that comes to me, and it's that I met him as an adult. I've walked through things with him as an adult. He is closer than a brother. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. He is the beginning and He is the end. Nothing scares me, even after losing my son, because I know He will be there and He's a good, good Father.